I think there's three things that are driving federal mobility. One is a realization, finally, a long overdue realization, that they've got to closely couple to what's going on in the commercial space. You know, for decades there was the government must invent its own solution thought, or it must take a commercial solution and put so many onerous requirements on it that it ended up not being a commercial off-the-shelf solution. It became a commercial off-the-shelf solution converted by Frankenstein kinds of engineering to make it what it is. And on the other hand, I think that, you know, in with that, government has realized that they've got to truly partner in a new way with industry, because industry does need to do some of the things that government needs for everybody, especially in the area of security. So the first trend is really this acknowledgement that we need to be coupled with what's going on in the commercial space. Okay, so that's the first one. The second thing that I would say is a trend is trying to figure out how we're going to deal with fiscal austerity. I mean, really serious austerity, not just a temporary Congress doesn't get along with the president kind of austerity, but truly we have a massive debt, we've got other priority challenges. So to give you an example, the first reaction when budget comes is we're going to cut our BlackBerry or cell phone usage. Oh, it's wasteful. Well, in the scheme of things, the cost of BlackBerry for 500 users, it's a chunk of money, but it's not that much money. And the real question is, in this austerity, how do you measure the benefits? And I'm going to talk a little bit about that today at the conference, that mobility gives you. And they're hard to measure, but there are things that mobility gives you that helps you deal with austerity. So I think that's the second major trend in it. And then the third trend is the understanding that we need to have enterprise-wide solutions. Government working together, and sometimes that's as hard or harder than an individual government organization working with industry. Sometimes it's a lot easier for an agency to work with, you know, academia or with companies through the acquisition channels or in, you know, industry associations than it is for them sometimes to work with other departments and agencies. Because the same pressures that make it hard for companies sometimes to work together, the competitiveness among themselves for market share, also, you know, there's the competitiveness within the federal government for budget share. So, you know, those are important. So those three trends, and to reiterate, it is, you know, needing to link with industry and ride what's going on in the commercial space, because there's such dynamic changes that offer capabilities undreamed of 15 years ago. And then I think I mentioned that the second one is, how do we do this to rationally deal with austerity and to leverage what mobility offers? And the third, government-wide enterprise solutions. I think mobile is going to evolve in all kinds of ways that government's going to have difficulty grabbing onto very easily, unless we can come up with some new paradigms. And at JIATO, we're trying to leverage the agility and innovation and speed that we developed with counter-IED solutions. We're actually trying to apply that to IT. But it's going to be tough. I mean, I think people have to understand, it's going to be tough in this fiscal environment to seize on to new capabilities. There is a cost to bringing in a new capability or a new system that has nothing to do with the cost of the system itself. Now, there are things we're doing, and mobility is more than cell phones. I think people need to understand that. For example, one of the things that we're working on is how do we leverage the capabilities that we're already buying in a new and different way. At JIATO, we have something called an information environment coalition, which is every company that we are buying products from or have hired to do any IT work at all. They get together, and MITRE facilitates that. We have a good relationship with MITRE. They get together on their own time, to figure out how they can work together and bring to us the full capabilities of what we have already spent. To give you an example, we're in an incredibly rapid time going to an enterprise license agreement for Microsoft products. Well, part of what we have is options to use Windows 8, and there's technologies to put Windows 8 on a encrypted stick that you can actually have it for people to work from home so that key workers in a secure VPN environment, without buying new tools, new software, without giving them laptops, where they can take it, put it into their home machines, and have a safe, secure way to access everything in the Nipper environment that they have back home. And so that leveraging of something we've already paid for is some of the new capabilities that we're going to get. But other than that, in the next year, until the government figures out how we're going to live in this new financial environment, I don't see a lot of new capabilities coming into the government other than what we've already bought. And that's got to be the emphasis. How do we use what we've already paid for? Mobile is not a standalone discipline. Okay, so I'd say the first thing, as an IT professional, I'm going to do the geek side of it first. The geek side of it is you've got to look at it as a part of your holistic enterprise. Okay, your whole environment. How do you make sure that you use the same kinds of rules that you use for everything else and that it leverages your full infrastructure? But it's got to be fast and agile. I mean, the government has a great history of ending up with technology just about the time it's going out of service when it comes to mobile, And so the question is, how do we get the speed and agility in our normal IT operations to leverage these capabilities? But I'd say the first thing from the IT engineering side is you've got to think of this as the whole. How does this fit into the whole? How does this fit into your knowledge management strategy? We're putting a big emphasis in JIATO on knowledge management, both and first and foremost in support of our counter-IED mission, but also of all the business processes that we're empowering to give the speed and agility that we need. So that's the first part. The second thing I would say is CIOs need to be CIOs. They need to have the business objectives and work with the mission partners within and without the organization, the stakeholders, to craft the mobility strategy. The mobility strategy supports the work of the agency. There's a danger, I started off with the IT geek engineering perspective. There's a danger that you stick with that. In some ways, you have to start with the business part of it. So I assume most people watching this interview are going to be IT folks. So I say, okay, I had to give them some IT part. But the really important part is partnering with your users to find out requirements versus desirements, especially in this austere environment.